This is almost about as long as when I started my first video. Hello my lovelies! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jamie. Today we are doing our monthly wrap-up for the month of August. It's already August. And it went by so fast. Looking back at everything, I realized I read so much more than I thought I did. I went with like a indie author August, that's what I kind of called it, and I may do that again next year without the pressure. The pressure was mainly why I didn't read as many as I wanted to. I just didn't want to read as much as I knew I should have, which can be a problem when you're forcing yourself to read you don't want to read. But at the end of the day, I read a lot more than just the indie books, and a lot of these I do not have physically. I only have like one of the indie books that I have. Without further ado, we are going to hop into the books that I read for the month of August. Hey guys, it's editing me, so I forgot to include my stats for this month, so we're going to do that really quick before we get started. Out of total, I had 14 books that I read this month, and I believe 3 of them were DNFs, so they weren't included in the ratings. But it's about 4,070 pages, which is really, really good. Most of them were small books, otherwise the page number would have been a lot higher. Most of the emotions that ranged around this month were surprisingly lighthearted, funny, emotional, dark, adventurous, tense, and mysterious. So I had some dark books, but at the same time I had a lot of funny, lighthearted romances. Go figure. So pace, most of them were fast. A lot of them are short books, which also tied into the page numbers. Like 58% of them were fast. It was more than half of the books. Same thing with the page number. More than half of them were less than 300 pages. This is very, very easy reading this month. Very, very easy. Almost all of them were fiction. All of them were fiction. And nearly all of them were romance. So, yeah, romance took the cake on this month. But it was Romanticon, so it makes sense. Average rating for this month was a 4.64 out of at least the ones that I have rated. So, it was pretty good. I had a lot of 5 stars, which did adhere to being such a high number. And then pages, don't ask. There were spikes all over the place. I just had a really good start, and then I crashed, and then I finally got a hold of a bunch of books that started making it go back up again, so I was very happy about that. Starting off with the very first one, after doing the buddy read with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, my buddy read wanted to continue with the second book, and we agreed we're going to do the whole series together, and I'm okay with that because I really enjoyed the first book. Going into the second book, it was a 5-star. It was Good Girl, Bad Blood. This one is a continuation of what happened after the first one. You know, dealing with everything that happened and the outcomes of everything that happened and the repercussions. She gets tasked with something else and gets called to help in with something that she really didn't want to do, but she couldn't help herself, so she's like, okay. I give this a 5-star because it gave us the same things that we got in the first one. It gave us all the interviews, it gave the mixed media, the discovery. It was in a different way and with a completely different topic, but we still got that feeling, we still got the discovery, the really good mystery, the really good plot twists. And this poor girl, I swear, this girl has gone through everything under the sun, and I'm amazed she's still functioning. But I guess that's what the third book is going to be about, so we'll see. Hopefully I'll get to finish that next month. That would be cool. But I haven't heard great things about the third one, so I'm curious to see if we're even going to get the same things as we did in the first and second. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So the next one I read was the first indie book that I started for the Romantically Yours Con, and that was The Remnants of Riley by A.M. Wagner. Guys, first of all, this is a 5, okay? I felt creeped out, but mostly just in the beginning, and then later we kind of grow out of it. This book is about a girl named Riley. She is restarting her life over in her hometown. She spent years hopping around from place to place after a really, really bad situation with her ex. So she's back in her hometown, and, you know, she got a good job. She's with her best friend who is helping her get a house, and she finally was able to close on getting her house. Her best friend isn't going to be there for the closing. She's going to be in Europe, so she's like, I have to get somebody else to close the house for you since I'm not going to be there. And she's like, okay. And then we meet Yvette. Yvette is going to be the one closing Riley's house. This man is obsessed. When I mean obsessed, I mean like put cameras in your house without you knowing, just so I know where you are, and all this other stuff, tracking where she is. It's a little obsessive, in my opinion, and that was the only part that I creeped out at. And everything else in the rest of the story, we see why. I may not have liked him in the beginning because of everything he was doing, and I understand, like, she had very valid reasons of being mad. Pure. She had very valid reasons of just disliking him in general. But I did appreciate the tension in here. We definitely got a lot of that. And not only that, but how much we discover about trauma. Trauma in general, how people deal with it. This made me cry. It made me giggle. It made me mad. It made me feel everything. But mostly, I was horrified. Absolutely horrified. I need you guys to understand something. I had to ask her when I was at the convention, because I met her and bought her first book. This is the only series she's written so far, and I really love how it ended, and I want to read the other three. The fourth one is coming out in November, and I want to read the rest of them before that point. I had to ask her, how did you write this particular scene? And she's like, oh, it broke me, and I cried multiple times in coffee shops because that's where I mostly wrote. And I'm like, I can understand that. But this is a dark romance. Do not take the trigger warnings lightly, because it means it. 100% means it. So that's your warning with that. I'm not saying that it's bad. I gave it a 5-star. It's really, really good. I did enjoy the other characters that we got in here. The writing was beautiful. Like, I pictured everything that was happening. A lot of this takes place in wintertime, so I'm already kind of getting that wanting the cold fall feel. I want to get the rest of the physical copies if I do enjoy them. I did really like this, so I decided to get it at the convention. But yeah, this broke me really bad. Really, really bad. But it has been one of my favorite ones that I got to read this month. Make that make sense. So the next one I read, I started off with Bailey Black's books. The first one that I picked up was The Lost Darling. This is a Peter Pan retelling. It's very interesting. But at the same time, I'm not rating it because I DNF'd it. It had nothing to do with the concept. It had nothing to do with what was going on, really. It seemed very interesting, and I wanted to like it so bad. But you guys know how some paragraphs, when you're getting a backstory, and it does it right in the middle of a dialogue scene, like they're talking about something, and then she'll go into a backstory, and then he'll say the next line, and then we'll go into another backstory. I could not stand it because it was just the writing, to be honest. I tried getting into it so much, and I just couldn't do it. I stopped at 50 pages. I'm like, I'm not enjoying it because it's making me mad. So I tried The Lost Darling, and then I wanted to try something else by this author to make sure that it wasn't just one book that it happened in. I read another one, Lucky in Love. This was a kind of like a St. Patrick's type of book where she grants a wish for somebody on St. Patrick's Day and it's supposed to come true in its own way. I also DNF'd this one for the same reason. I'm not rating it also because I DNF'd it. It was the same thing. I'm gonna line of dialogue and then a backstory and then a line of dialogue and then a backstory, and I got tired of it. I'm like, okay, I need to pick another author to start with because this one isn't gonna work. And to be honest, I got sick of it, so I took a break and I hopped over into one of my books, my 25 for 2025. I read The Crown Game by Evelyn Skye. This was so unique. I gave this one a 4.25. The only reason why it's not a 5-star is because mostly of how it ended. One, it felt like it was very, very rushed. And two, I'm a little confused. I'm hoping the second book will clarify it. But this book was so good. There's a story about Vika and Nikolai. And then we also have a third character in here, but I'm not going to say anything about him. Vika and Nikolai are both enchanters. The best way to describe this is that it's a historical fantasy, and I love it. I absolutely love it because the historical part of it, if you guys can't tell, is Russian. I have not read a historical Russian type of book, and even making it fantasy made it even better. I don't know what it was about it, but it seemed so cool. About learning different cultural things that they put in there. It was so cool. So they're living in this world. The thing about Vika and Nikolai is that they are both enchanters. There's magic in this world. However, the type of magic that it is, it's a type of world-based magic that gets sucked into these people and they use it, and the way of the world is that if you are an enchanter, you go and work for the Sultan and become an advisor. Well, if there's more than one, which in this case there are two, they basically have to fight the Crown's Game, where they have to prove themselves to be better than the other to become the Tsar's consultant. They made it seem so high stakes in the beginning, but at the same time, for the prince's birthday, I forgot what I'll put it up here, but I forgot what they called the prince in the Russian term. It wasn't like they were fighting each other in an arena. They were fighting each other like within the city. Their identities were secret. Only the Tsar knew who they were. They weren't even supposed to know each other, but it turned out that they got to see one another. That happens really early on in the book, so that's not really a spoiler. But I did enjoy some things that happened in here. Not everything. And that's kind of why I gave it a 4.25. I feel like the stakes weren't high enough until the end, which was why I said it was very, very rushed. Also got some side stories in here, some romance in here, not a lot. And I didn't really connect with the romance either, and that's another reason why I didn't give it a 5-star. So I did enjoy it, and I do want to read the second book. There's only one other book in this. It's called Ruinous Fate. I do hope to finish that as well this year. That would be really, really cool. It's a really good book. I was very surprised. This was one of my sister's picks, one of the ones she wanted me to read that she read years ago, and she still hasn't read the second book yet, so I'll have to let her know how it is. But I really did enjoy this. This was like a little hidden gem that's been sitting on my shelf for years, by the way. It's like over 5 years old. After reading The Crown's Game, I still felt like I wasn't completely ready to start another indie book yet, so I picked up something short and sweet. I picked up the next Lora Olympus book, which happened to be number 4. This one, I've been giving them like close to a 5-star, but this one was a 5-star. I forgot how much drama we gain in this one book. It's just the family dynamic in this is insane because you know the Greek gods and they all mess around with one another, so it's like they're with this person and they're also with this person, and it gets crazy. Well, we see the different ways that the children behave around one another, and then we also see the type of family that they prefer the most to be around. And not only that, but some of the romance drama that goes on in here is insane. Especially the part with Mint. Mint made me mad. And I would have did exactly what Cait did. So, I really enjoyed it. It was short, it was sweet, and I was able to finish it in 2 hours. So, after that one, I was ready to start another indie book. I picked up my next one, which I went with another beat author, was A Witchy Situation by Bella Pursell, and I could not be happier that I got to pick this up. This was another 5-star. Most of my indie books were 5 stars, which was very surprising actually. Was such a cozy Halloween read novella. It's only 134 pages or something like that. It's very, very short. I read it in like one sitting. This is very short. If you guys like Halloween Town, you will love this. There's, you know, the witches, the vampires, and all that other stuff mixed in with this. They have what's called the witch hotline, which I thought was so cute. There's not like little flashbacks of the love interests in this. I'm trying not to give too much away because it's such a short book. I don't want to give too much into it. But this is about a guy who's been pining after his best friend for many, many years, and she is oblivious. But at the same time, she feels about him the way he feels about her. Communication problems. This is why I don't like communication problems. It's like so simple to solve these things. You know, between them describing the smells, the baked goods, the feel, it's around Halloween time, so this is the perfect Halloween cozy read, and I want to buy this so bad so I can read it every year. Not only that, but for such a small book, The Witchy Situation, it was such good world building. It was very specific, but at the same time short enough to where it didn't overtake the entire book. You know, we got everything that was going on. We had a feel for, you know, what time it was and some of the history and all this other stuff going on, and it was perfect. I would have either loved to have a full book of this, or I would love to have a sequel of this. This was so cute. And such good world building. I gotta give her credit for that. And I was so happy to meet her at the convention too. Absolutely wonderful. I did get another book by her. I hope to get to that sometime this year, if not next year. That would be awesome. But I loved the tension in this too. It is a clean romance. Loved it. It was so good. So I was on a roll after this. I decided to pick the next one, which was Player and the Pop Star, and this is by Cait Elise. This is the only book that she's written so far, and I want more. This one is another 5-star that I got to read, another clean romance, and if there was spice in here, I literally would have docked points because it didn't need it. The tension was so good. It's definitely a slow burn. This is such a slow burn. I loved it. We went from definite hate into being friends and being friendly towards one another, going more into that. But there was so much depth into these characters, into the situations both of them were in, and everything surrounding their stresses and their plans, what they want to do after, you know, they're done both being famous, because he is a football player who's thinking about retiring and becoming a elderly animal shelter. I think is so awesome. Like, I wish more people did that. Like, anybody can drop an animal off at a shelter, but very few will actually take in an elderly animal. They will just, you know, put them down to make it easier, and it's sad. So I really do commend him for wanting to do that, and love it. She is obviously a pop star. So she's going around doing her tour. She's been doing it for about 10 years at this point. So they met very early on in their careers, and they never saw each other after that until a recent situation came up with her that also benefited him. So that's how they teamed up and decided to just roll with the punches on this one. I loved how she described the paparazzi, you know, the inner demons they were all going through. In this one, I also really enjoyed how we got both likable and unlikable characters in this. I can't really describe them much because it takes away some of the depth of the story and give you guys an idea about it. But some of these characters made me mad. Like, really made me mad. I have nothing negative to say about this at all. I thought it was really, really good. I loved it being a clean romance because I felt like it definitely would have ruined it. That is not the vibe I was getting from it, and I was praying and hoping that there wasn't going to be anything. She wanted to create it that way, and I hope she continues to do that because I will definitely read it. Next one that I decided to read is Donna Clare's book, The Reclaimed Kingdom. This was a DNF. I got halfway through it. I got quite a bit through. And I was really, really intrigued. I was vibing with the story. I was getting everything that was going on. The magic system in here was really cool. It was set like a medieval era. And I really enjoy those books because I like a girl badass. Certain things, though, they started messing with one another. We started learning some things about certain people that made it very confusing. And then all of a sudden we had magical costume changes, like, came out of nowhere, and I'm like, okay, that's not realistic. Maybe it didn't magically appear, but at the same time, it was like, did we really need to know what she looked like, to be honest? It rubbed me the wrong way, and then we started drifting just downhill from there, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. It started disrupting the flow for me, so I couldn't deal with it. I may try some other things by her later, because apparently she also writes fan fiction or things like that. So I'll give that a try, but this one, it was just a miss for me. And I think this was the only one that I could find on Kindle Unlimited. I tried. The next one that I got around to reading, and I was so happy because I found this one as an audiobook. And a lot of these Kindle books were not on audio, and that is mainly how I read because I can read them while I work. Kindle I have to do before, on my lunch, or after work. It's not a lot of time to my day, so that's why I did think I read as many as I did. But this one I was able to listen to the audiobook in 2 days because I liked it so much. And that was Outdrawn by Deanna Grey. This one is the story about two girls. They are rivals, and they now work for the same, I wouldn't call it publicity company. I know they were working on a webcomic individually, or each working on their own webcomic. And then I think for the industry that they're in, I think they write comics or manga, something like that. They're both writers, they both draw, they both do their own little thing. So now they're working for the same company. Well, they had met at an institute that they both went to many, many years beforehand, and they didn't like each other then. And now they're working together, and they still feel the same about each other. But this is definitely an LGTBQ book, and actually been one of my favorites. I gave it a 5-star. I'll admit, I didn't think I was gonna like it. This has been one of my favorite ones. So much depth to these characters, it is insane. Like, I've been looking for books that have depth to the characters, where I can relate to the problems that they are facing, their little inner demons that they've been dealing with. This one was mostly about, you know, standing up for yourself. That was one of them. And then the other one is taking yourself as a priority first. And I think those are both very, very good self-development characteristics, because you have to know when enough is enough, and you have to know when to stand up for yourself without worrying about their feelings, without worrying about the repercussions and the consequences. You just gotta do it sometimes. And I do think that those were very, very powerful points in this story, which is why I enjoyed it so much. The spice in it was also really good. It was kind of just like an afterthought. I was like, okay, it was okay. But I just love the story more than anything else. I do also love how we got so many, what's the word for it? So much background about what a writer or an artist goes through in order to procure these comics and webcomics and things like that, because it sometimes happens. That's mainly why I could quit drawing as much as I was, because I used to draw before I started reading again. My wrists were killing me. Carpal tunnel is really big risk for drawers and webcomicers. I loved it so much. I'm so happy that I got to meet her. She also gave me another book that she thinks I'm gonna like, and I'm very excited to read that one as well. It was just, and it's also happened over the course of a few months too, which makes it also a slow burn. And we didn't have as many communication problems, which I did like. I did appreciate that. Alright, so the next one, because I was on a roll, I read another indie author. This one is called Capitally Matched by Rachel Holm. I gave this one a 4.5. I really enjoyed this one. Just one thing I wish we would have gotten more of. But I got to meet this author as well and got to ask her a couple of questions and stuff. But this one, I love reading about people who are passionate about the book community. This is a story about a boy and a girl who each do their own thing. He works over at like an industry type of setting, and then she is doing an internship over at a kind of like a fundraising, I forget what they're called. I know I read all about it. But she was interning at a type of program that helps independent bookstores and brings people in to get new ideas about how to help them in certain ways and all this other stuff. It was so cool, and she came from a bookstore background. Her parents owned the bookstore, and she grew up helping take care of it, which was really cool. One of the receptionists from his industry scheduled him to be in a condo for a couple of months, and then another secretary actually scheduled her for being in the same condo at the same time. So they got them mixed up, and she was so surprised to see him, and he was surprised to see her. They're like, we're stuck together? Great, because there's nowhere else we can stay for now. So, and it's his brother's condo, by the way, so he had more of a pull, but his mother knew her, which is why he didn't want to go behind her back. This one, I loved the pranks that we got in here. The pranks were so funny. They were very original. Some of them I hadn't even heard of before. Very cool. But I wish we would have gotten more of them. They like popped up once, and I thought we were gonna get more, but they didn't pop up again. So I do wish we would have gotten more. Romance was really cute. I loved how we got spice in here, but it wasn't all up in your face, very descriptive. It was like we went up to a certain point, and then we hopped into over the next day, and just a little clip of it. We were getting little snippets, and I did enjoy that because it left it more to the imagination. I'm never gonna say no, but at the same time, if the feel of a book for me just doesn't give it off, like it's gonna turn out that way, then I don't want it in it. And some books I just feel like it would be better without it. Some books I think it would be better with it. It depends. So this one, I'm very happy that it gave little snippets of it versus just full-on scenes. And that, it was a very short book too. It was like barely 250, almost 300, not that long. Other than that, is really good. I hope to finish this series as well. I started so many series this month, it's not even funny. I don't even want to talk about it. We're not gonna talk about it. We're gonna ignore it. And then the next one I read, and I read this all the way up until the day after the convention, was The Summer I Loved You by jllora. This one, I gave this one also a 4.5. I really did enjoy it. This one also dealing with inner battles and what's going on in their life. This was the story about a man who is a baseball player. He's retired, I believe, now. But he had a old girlfriend when he was growing up, and they split. Well, one day, because he turned into an artist, he started becoming a full-time artist. He has his own studio, and he opened it up and everything. It was really cool. Well, one day a little girl shows up in his studio, and she's by herself, and he's very intrigued about her. And all of a sudden, he looks at her, and he's like, who's your mother? And she told him, and he's like, no way. So it turns out he has had a secret child that he did not know about because she kept it from him. But there's a lot more to that story that I'm not going to talk about. But he's just like, I gotta get you home and this isn't gonna be good. So, because they promised never to see each other again afterwards, after they broke up. So for him it was like, I gotta do it. I'm not gonna like it, but I'm gonna do it. I did enjoy all the side characters. So the main reason why I didn't give it a higher rating was because, one, I didn't feel like the stakes were high enough near the end of the book. I felt like it could have been a different situation to make it seem more serious than it was, because it didn't. I just didn't feel that urgency, like, oh my gosh, we need to do this. I loved the romance too. It was the same with Rachel Holm's writing. She did a little bit of a full one, and then we did little snippets from here on out, and the tension was really, really good. It was definitely there. And I am looking forward to the rest of the series. She gave me the next one in the series, so hopefully I'll be able to read that one sometime soon as well. But I just wish the stakes were a little bit higher near the end of it. I love the side characters. The siblings were so funny. I felt for the siblings. So I hope we get a story with them. And then the kid, I don't know. She seemed very outgoing and very sweet, but at the same time, she was very, I don't know the word for it. I can't think of it at the top of my head. But something was just off. I don't know what it was. I really enjoyed it. It was good. And I do want to read the rest of the series as well. Just add another one in there. That was the last of the indie ones that I got to read. And the last, I have two more that we're going to talk about. I swear I'm almost done. So this is number 13 at this point. This is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett Sinclair. This was Jency Reed's book club pick for this month. I was very hesitant to read it, to be honest, because the synopsis didn't really give us much to go off of. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a better synopsis than what they give you. This is the story, a fantasy, by the way. Well, I would say it's a romantasy, technically. But we are living in the Garden of Eden, what it would look like today. So this is after everything dealing with God and the Messiah and everything else like that. We have the bishop who preaches the word, and everybody is very strict about this, which gives me the same feeling as we did as Catholics. You do something wrong, you're made to feel guilty, and all this other stuff. It's very guilty triggering. All of them aren't like that, but the majority of the ones we were in, it was like that. That's the feeling that you get from this. So the main thing about this story is that we are in a Garden of Eden after everything is done, the Messiah and everything else. So they have different parts, like same with every city, different parts of Eden. Well, we figure out later about the reason behind the gates. We figure out, everything that happened, and that was very surprising. I did enjoy finding out that part of the book. Technically, it's a spoiler because it does go past the middle of the book, so you need to read the rest before you get to that point. I do not appreciate how pissy the female main character was in this. So Lilith, she's definitely a character, and she does come from a very traumatizing background. I'll give her that. But she was definitely a lot angrier than I wanted her to be, to the point where I was just like, really? Especially during the parts where she's getting the explanations that she asked for, and she's still being mad and calling them a liar and all this other stuff. I'm like, will you just listen to them? And I wanted her just to shut up and listen. Think her own little thoughts if she wanted to, but be nice to the person who's telling you what's going on. It just, yeah. Especially at the main character. She was drastically angry at the main character, Zaharif, by the way. It's a very unique name. So if you don't know how to pronounce it from the audiobook, they pronounce it Zaharif. Main reason why I didn't give it higher than a 4, because I did give it a 4. I did enjoy it and I did finish it, and I will end up reading the second one. However, I really want to get some answers that are literally plot holes in the story. Magic in this world, she has a certain ability. She has the ability to access somebody's desire and use it and control that person. Any sliver of desire, she can bring it out, hold on to it, and basically use it. It's really interesting, actually. It's a very interesting power. Well, apparently, witches in this world have all different kinds of power. We didn't touch on anything dealing with them, and I wish we did. We would have gotten so many more answers. But that is one thing I hope they do touch on, because that was one of the reasons why I didn't give it higher than a 4. Also, just the anchor was really unnecessary. It was a really good book, and I did enjoy it, and I will look forward to reading the second one. It just wasn't a favorite of the month. It was okay. It was just okay. Which, speaking of meh, brings me to my book of the month pick, which happened to be The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I gave it a 3.25. I'm going to tell you guys, this one I had such high hopes for because of To All the Boys I Loved Before. I loved it. I binged it. I binged this one too, but the story was very more slice of life than it was having a plot and going with it, or having a problem and trying to cope with it throughout the series. This one kind of just blurred together. We just went through the summer with all these different things, and yeah, there were some very, very interesting things that did happen in here. Like in the last 50 pages, I got really interested in it and I finished it. But I didn't really enjoy it, not as much as I did her other books. So I didn't connect with the characters, I didn't connect with the romance, and I was wondering, what's the point of this? So I know some books aren't meant to have a point, and you're supposed to look at the inner demons and all this other, character flaws and things like that. I get that. Like, I can handle that. But this one, the whole point, I think, was to be connected with the characters, to get you to understand the romance. Some things I understood. The thing with her best friend Taylor took me by surprise. I'm like, oh, okay. But it didn't get the build-up it needed, I don't think, to make me go, oh my gosh. You know those moments where you're just like, no. I got that at the very end, and it wasn't even romance related. So for me, I didn't connect with it hardly at all, and I really don't see the hype. I don't. Will I give the second book a try? Yes, because my friend Jen, she gave me, this is her copy, she gave me all 3 books to try and read, and I read this one already. The second one I will attempt, and if I still feel the same way about it, I probably won't even finish that one or even read the third one. So I wish, this was my disappointment of the month. I wanted to love this more, and I just didn't. So it is what it is. So these are all the books that I read for. It's such a little stack compared to what I've actually read this month. It looks so tiny compared to like the stacks I've normally been having. But this one, I didn't have a lot of physical copies. They were all in Kindle Unlimited, or they were all audiobooks, and some of them I just don't even have anymore because they were library books. So it varied this month, and this is about the extent of what it was. But that's okay. Next month it'll definitely be a big stack, because I'll be reading more physical books on my actual TBR this time. That is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining me. I had such a good time reading this, but I am so done with romance for now. I am so ready to have thrillers and classics and all this other stuff instead of just pure romance, and I think I'm done for a while. FYI to you guys really quick, this is what we're reading from my book club pick this month, so if you guys want to join in on my Fable book club, you guys can definitely do that. It's in the link in my bio. I would love it if you guys would come and join me, because I've heard that this is a book that everybody's either heard of and want to read, or they want my opinion on. So I figure we might as well read it together. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. That'll help me bring you guys more videos every week. But love you, reads and drink your teas, and I'm gonna go get started on reading some more. Bye! You say it's hard to tell just what I'm thinking.